glorified her ex-husband. She made him the bad guy.
The divorce would have never even been out if he didn't file the motion to use our full and legal names.
Then she had to go and she had to get new energy. What was she calling him? Her apple pies? Have you seen my apple pies?
Did you see my apple pie?
Oh my God, you did a love scene with Leonardo DiCaprio.
How was it shooting those scenes with Leo?
It was just work.
Hold on, because what Jaguar Wright just revealed is making people rethink everything they believed about Hollywood relationships. What seemed like a perfect soft launch romance is now being described as something much colder, darker, and possibly more planned than anyone expected. If even part of this is true, this isn't just a breakup. It's a fake love story falling apart in real time. Jaguar claims that the relationship between Teyana Taylor and Pierre wasn't built on chemistry or love. Instead, she says it was created, shaped, and sold to the public. She didn't hint at it, she said it openly. In Hollywood, love only becomes popular if it makes money, and she believes this relationship was made to check all the PR boxes. The shocking part is when Jaguar suggests Aaron's rise depended on the support of Black women, but his actual dating history tells a different story. People are now looking back at old photos and moments that suddenly feel strange, like a wedding appearance that seemed too close, a forehead kiss that didn't feel friendly, and captions that seemed overly meaningful. Jaguar also questions whether Teyana, coming out of a messy divorce, needed a fresh image, a distraction strong enough to silence rumors and gossip. According to her, Aaron wasn't just a partner, he was a shield. What hurts the most is the idea that everyone was acting, smiling for cameras and letting fans fall in love with something that might never have been real. If this was all staged, the real loss isn't the breakup, it's the betrayal of trust. So now the question isn't whether they're still together. The question is, were they ever real at all?
Shout out to Teyana Taylor! Her contract is up! Her and Aaron, I almost called him Hernandez. That's Stefan Diggs, my bad. That's not, Stefan Diggs is Aaron Hernandez, okay? Aaron Pierre, okay? What's that song? Mufasa? What's that song, Mufasa?
Yeah, that's
Mufasa.
What's happening right now doesn't feel like a fairy tale or a sweet romance. It feels more like a slow crash that everyone can see coming but no one wants to admit out loud. When smiles start looking practiced, when stories don't quite line up, and when the people involved suddenly go quiet, that silence speaks louder than any public statement ever could. That's the space this situation lives in. And right in the middle of it all is Jaguar Wright, speaking boldly, not carefully, like someone who believes the truth has already slipped out. According to Jaguar, she didn't step forward just to stir gossip. She came to challenge a story that had been carefully built and sold as genuine, effortless, and inspiring. She claimed that the relationship between Teyana Taylor and Pierre didn't happen by chance. In her view, it was planned, not driven by pure emotion but shaped by timing, image, and opportunity. Hollywood, she suggested, has been doing this for decades, pairing people in ways that look authentic on the surface but serve a purpose behind the scenes. From the outside, everything looked perfect. Two talented and attractive figures, both rising at the same time, both benefiting from public attention. Their appearances were well-timed, their photos tasteful, their presence controlled. To Jaguar, that perfection wasn't romantic, it was suspicious. In an industry built on strategy, nothing lines up that neatly by accident. When it does, it raises questions about who is guiding the story and why. Jaguar also pointed out that Pierre's career was entering a moment where support from a very loyal and culturally invested audience mattered. That kind of backing doesn't just help visibility, it shapes long-term success. She implied that the public image being presented didn't fully match what was happening privately, and when similar patterns repeat, they stop feeling random. She didn't make direct accusations. Instead, she connected moments, resurfaced old associations, and let people draw their own conclusions. The picture that formed didn't look like love. It looked like an exchange. One moment that stood out was a wedding appearance that many people brushed past. Jaguar argued that weddings aren't casual spaces. You don't show up with just anyone. The comfort, the closeness, the ease between them suggested history. Then an old image resurfaced, a quiet forehead kiss that wasn't meant for cameras. It wasn't flashy or staged. Felt personal. Jaguar said gestures like that don't belong to publicity plans. They come from real connection, and once people saw it again, the polished romance narrative began to crack. When the focus turned to Teyana, the conversation grew heavier. Jaguar suggested that Teyana was coming out of a deeply public and painful chapter. Her divorce wasn't private. It was dissected online, judged endlessly, and never allowed to fade quietly. In moments like that, image can feel like protection. Reinvention becomes a way to survive. According to Jaguar, the fastest way to change the conversation is to give the public a new one, especially one that looks clean, hopeful, and romantic. In that sense, Erin fit perfectly. What made Jaguar's comments hit harder was that she didn't frame this as cruelty. She framed it as a system, a machine that boxes people in, especially women, and turns honesty into a weapon against them. She referenced Teyana's past interviews, showing how words that were once praised later became ammunition. In an industry that punishes openness, silence, or strategy often feels safer. What unsettles people isn't one claim, but how well everything fits together when viewed side by side. The timing, the flawless rollout, the instant legitimacy, all of it appeared fully formed. Fans who questioned it were told they were being negative, but Jaguar argued that questioning is necessary. Hollywood has a history of selling dreams with expiration dates. As her words spread, reactions split. Some dismissed her. Others listened closely. But no one could fully ignore the inconsistencies she highlighted. If there's any truth to her claims, the real tragedy isn't a fake relationship. It's the idea that belief, trust, and emotion were used as tools. And once doubt settles in, it's almost impossible to push it back out. Jaguar suggested that this is exactly why breakups in situations like this rarely come with real explanations. The ending is usually just as controlled as the beginning. Nothing is left to chance. Everything is measured, softened, and released in a way that protects the image rather than the truth. As people continued talking about it, sympathy began to shift in unexpected ways. If this relationship was carefully arranged, then everyone involved was living under constant pressure. Pressure to look happy, pressure to protect careers, pressure to stay quiet even as rumors grew louder. That silence created space for the public to fill in the blanks. And once people start guessing, the story takes on a life of its own. Jaguar hinted that maintaining an illusion like this can slowly wear a person down. Living inside a storyline written by other people can drain authenticity over time. When audiences begin to sense that something feels off, their reactions can turn sharp. Some feel disappointed, others feel angry, many feel misled. Fans don't just follow celebrities for entertainment. They invest emotionally. They believe in what they're shown. What made this moment heavier was the idea that the full truth might never come out. Jaguar didn't promise proof or dramatic reveals. She framed her words as awareness, not exposure. A reminder that not everything that looks intimate is built on genuine feeling. Some moments are designed to look real because appearances matter. As reactions poured in, comment sections turned into arguments. People analyzed body language, revisited old clips, and tried to line up timelines. Every pause, every glance, every lack of response became part of the discussion. Silence was interpreted differently depending on who you asked. Some saw it as guilt. Others saw it as restraint. Jaguar ended her commentary by asking why honesty in the entertainment world is often punished while performance is rewarded. Why being real becomes risky once it stops being profitable. Her tone wasn't proud or dramatic. It sounded tired, like someone who has watched this pattern repeat too many times. The emotional weight didn't hit all at once. It settled slowly, like disappointment rather than shock. Because if even part of this story is true, then what was sold as connection may have been convenience. That realization hurts more than any breakup announcement ever could. At that point, the conversation stopped being about who dated whom. It became about how easily perception can be shaped and how often truth gets pushed aside to protect an image. One uncomfortable question stayed in the air. Not whether the relationship would last, but whether it ever existed outside of cameras, schedules, and strategy. Was there a moment that belonged only to them, untouched by expectations? That question remains unanswered. And maybe it always will. In an industry built on illusion, certainty is rare. What's left instead is doubt, interpretation, and the feeling that the public never saw the full picture. This wasn't closure. It was escalation. As the uncertainty grew, the atmosphere around the story changed. Once doubt attaches itself to something this polished, it doesn't disappear quietly. It lingers. People began noticing subtle shifts. Fewer appearances. Less interaction. What once felt confident now seemed carefully managed. According to what Jaguar hinted, this is when pressure behind the scenes becomes real. Not through statements but through absence. Jaguar suggested this stage is the most exhausting. Not exposure but burnout. The strain of holding a narrative together while knowing the audience feels something isn't right. Once trust starts cracking, reassurance no longer works. Smiles lose impact. Silence starts to feel suspicious. What made this part especially painful was the emotional investment fans had already poured in. People celebrated the pairing as growth, healing, and hope after public pain. If that belief was even partly engineered, the fallout isn't scandal. It's disillusionment. Jaguar framed this as a system problem, not a personal attack. She implied that people get trapped inside roles once those roles become profitable. When the story is useful, it's protected. When it isn't, it's quietly taken apart, leaving those involved to deal with the aftermath. Online discussion began to feel like a courtroom. There were no hard facts, only patterns. Timing, consistency, and silence became evidence. According to Jaguar, endings like this are rarely explosive. They're slow fades, mutual understanding, quiet distance. The goal isn't honesty, it's containment, letting the story dissolve without ever confirming what it truly was. For many people, that realization was heavy. It meant closure might never come. No confession, no clarity, just an unspoken agreement to move forward. Still, the sadness lingered because even if strategy played a role, the people involved are human. They feel pressure. They absorb judgment. Jaguar acknowledged that tension, the mix of choice and constraint. As the conversation reached its peak, it stopped being about individuals and became about trust. About how often audiences are asked to believe. About how easily hope can be packaged. The tragedy isn't just that love may have been staged. It's that authenticity has become so rare that people cling to it wherever they think they see it. And when that illusion falls apart, it leaves behind fatigue and cynicism. Jaguar's final implication was unsettling. This cycle will repeat. Different faces. Same formula. Because it works. When the discussion cooled, what remained wasn't outrage. It was reflection. A quiet understanding that once the curtain is pulled back, even slightly, it never fully closes. Every future moment will be viewed differently. And that shift, whether fair or not, becomes permanent.